Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Another One. We'd like to thank you guys for coming out with us today and um, being a part of another episode of Another One. Today we have, as usual, our same cast. Hashtag Team Bees. We have Trey BZ on the line. We have Hello Kaya on the line. We have
What's up,
Khadijah
guys?
RBZ on the line, and we have yours truly, Rich Bees. So, we're going to start off today talking about our subject, time. So, I'm glad I guess that's what the cricket was for, but we're talking about this week, time. Tick tock goes the clock. So, on this episode of Another One, first off, we're going to kick off talking about what actually is time. So,
Good question, Rich Bees.
I just made sure that I pulled up the definition of time, and let's see what we have here for the meaning of time. So here we go. Time is a measure in which events can be ordered from the past through the present into the future, and is also a measure of durations of events and the intervals between them. Time is often referred to as the fourth dimension. So, with that being said, I have another definition of time. Well, it's not really a definition, but since we are Team Bees, let's find out what the Bible says about time. Here we go. So, Ephesians 5 and 16 says, making the best use of time because the days are evil. Is that happiness about the days being evil? Is that what that clap was for?
Yes.
Our studio audience here is clapping for any reason. I guess they do clappers. So, in the mode of talking about this time, um, here we go. So, we have a couple of different angles of time that we're going to talk about here. So, we're going to start off here. We're gonna have kind of like I'll call it a
Red Robin.
round red robin. Yeah, I'm gonna say round robin, but the round
Right.
robin here that we're gonna talk about is wasting time. So we're gonna talk about time wasting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, oh boy.
so so what does anybody have to say about time wasting? What is
I'll go first. um, a good one, a good way that would be wasting time would be it's kind of in social medias. Social medias is a good time waster.
I didn't think we
Some
were.
people are time wasters.
I didn't know that we were looking for ways to waste time. I didn't know that that's what we were asking
Yeah,
for.
that definitely wasn't what we were asking
I thought
for.
he said time wasting.
Uh,
Yes, we're gonna talk about wasting of time, not
Hmm.
things that can waste your time.
So what was the question?
Another ask.
So okay. Since you want to go first, what is time wasting, Trey?
It's kind of self-explanatory. It's wasting your time with some things or people.
Okay, so what do you do that you would actually consider a waste of your time?
YouTube, Netflix, Xbox, anything that I do that I consider fun. No,
Oh,
that's
so
not true.
so,
That's
so it's
not
fun.
true.
So it's fun to waste time.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay, what are you saying?
Um, the
Oh, that's
that
what you're saying.
yep, just a nice clear of the throat.
That was a
Um,
waste of my time.
um, but um, I don't think that some things, if you like what you do, I guess it wouldn't be considered a waste of time because you're doing something productive and you like it. So That would be good. But
Okay.
Well, I
So,
let's
think
and
that's the
yeah,
operative
let's flip it
thing
over to
right there.
Khadijah.
I think that that's the
Jump in,
operative
jump in.
thing right there. If you're using your time and you're doing something that's productive, that it's yielding a result, then that's not wasting time, in my opinion. Now,
I agree with that.
um, whoa. Now, social media, you mentioned that being a time waster. Well, I think it depends upon how you use it. If you're just on it and it serves no value, no purpose, you're not like promoting a business, a product, a service, or whatever, then yeah, it could be a waste of time because what you're doing is not yielding a result. So I think that that's how you can determine whether you're wasting time or not. If what you're using your time for is yielding a result, if it's helping you to reach a goal or helping you to accomplish something in your life.
Well, based on a poll, I guess you want to say, um, done by a couple of different sites, and they have a little conflict here on actually the results. But the question here is how many hours are actually spent on social media? Does anybody have a guess? You can do it in a percentage. You could do it in a number of hours per day. What do you think?
Well, I think that out of one day, in one day is our wrestling. In one
Correct.
day, in one day, I think the average person spends maybe 17 hours. No, 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 because you're school and
Per
stuff.
day?
17
Yeah,
hours per
Wow.
day?
maybe 6 to 10, 5 to 10.
Okay, so you
Well,
said
I would venture to say maybe five or
8.
five or less. And I think that five might be pushing it, but for some people it might not, because I think, like, 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 30 minutes there. Like if you are using the bathroom and you are in the bathroom and you're on the toilet for 30 minutes, then okay, that's 30 minutes. And then if you're on your lunch at work and you spend 15 minutes, then that's 45 minutes there. So it's like the bits and pieces, start adding up. 5 minutes here when you just checking something, or if you get a notification or whatever. So, you know,
I have a guess, another guess, but this
I,
one.
I don't think yours is a guess now. I think you probably looked it up. So let's move on. So I think based on what I looked at online, and it talks about marketing charts and all of that, basically they're saying the average
3 hours.
American from 18 to 64, age 18 to age
That
64, they say they spend an average of 3.2 hours per day.
okay.
3.2 hours per day on social media. So the real question is, how do we manage that time better?
don't get on social media.
No, that's not necessarily the way to manage it better. Because like Khadijah RBZ said, if you are doing something, promoting something, pushing your brand, showing your products off and stuff like that, then you're actually being productive with social media. So that's not considered actually, wasting time on social media. That's actually considered working, for a lack of another way to put it. So let's move into the next part of our time discussion today, and let's ask Kaya about this time management. So how does time management actually work? And the reason why I'm asking Kaya is because she actually is pretty good, if you ask me. And that's not saying much, but if you ask me about time management, I think she's a great person to talk toward that topic. So, talk a little bit about time management there, Kaya.
What is funny? What is funny? Okay, sorry.
Mm,
Um,
I got
okay,
some oil for that.
okay. Um, so with time management, I think that the best way to manage your time, but first know what you need to do, because you can't really manage anything if you don't write down or know what you have to do anyway.
So you're saying create a checklist or something like that?
Yeah, like a checklist, or put it in a calendar or something, so you know what you have to do. Because you could forget a lot of stuff, and then that would just be cramming it in at the end, which would be really dusty. Because then you would forget your stuff. So write it all down or whatever. And then you can put this in a checklist, and then you can check everything off when you finish it. And that way it helps you to finish stuff really faster, because you know what you have to do. So that's a good way to manage time.
Okay, if you're using these time management skills you're talking about, making checklists, writing it down, and stuff like that, do you actually feel like that you can get more accomplished if you actually do it that way?
Yes.
Well, that's not really a yes or no question, or I'm not looking for a yes or no. How much on average can you get done more using time management skills versus not?
I mean, it depends upon how much you're already doing. Because you can get more done.
Okay, so you're saying that it depends upon you and how much you are already doing. You have anything to say about that, Khadijah? Because I think you also have some great time management skills.
Well, I do agree with Kaya. One of the best ways that you can manage your time is acknowledging what you're using your time for. And the only way that you know, you can even assess whether you're spending too much time in one area or not spending enough time in another area is to know how you're spending your time. So having that checklist is important. Using a calendaring system is important also, but you can't just have a calendar and put things on a calendar but don't acknowledge or um, uh, keep up with what's on your calendar. So I think that that's important too, accountability. So with time management, having that type of checklist, having that type of system is important.
So you said being accountable for your time actually is so it's not just about the checklist, it's about being accountable for that time that you're saying that you're allotting to this certain thing.
That's right, because sometimes people put things on their calendar to do, or they write things down to do, and they allow other things to invade that time. So, so what is important for you? Are you um, I think knowing what your priorities are is important also with managing your time. What's important? Do you know that from 9 to 5 or whatever your schedule is at work, that you're at work and you're doing work stuff. So you already know that that time is allotted in your day. That's your priority, unless you have something like an emergency or whatever. But then
Hmm.
when it comes to your personal life and your personal goals and your dreams and things like that, sometimes you don't set forth that same mindset and say, okay, well, from this time to this time, I'm working on my business, or from this time to this time, I'm developing whatever your product or your service, your craft. I'm going to use this time to study or whatever the case may be. I know something that's really, 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 really big for us is allotting time for working out. And sometimes, while
Hmm.
depending upon the day and what our schedule already is, we have some flexibility there. There's other times where we don't have as much flexibility with working out. So we have to put it on the calendar and we have to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And we can't allow things to cause us to deviate from that because it's a priority for you. So I think when managing your time, it's important to know what your priorities are.
Okay. Yep. Swing it right back down on the Kaya again. But so in knowing what your priorities are and in having your checklist and making sure that you're not wasting time, um, I think one of the key things is making sure that when your time involves others' time, that you're being mindful of that time. And I think someone who really is really big on that would be Khadijah. What do you think about that, being mindful of people's time?
Well, as you stated, I am very aware of people's time, and I think that um, it makes things kind of frustrating for me sometimes because unfortunately that's not always what people give. So although I'm
Right,
mindful of
right,
other people's time, people are not always mindful of my time. And I think that that goes back to your priorities, you as a person. If you know that you try to be mindful of people's time, and if they're not mindful of yours, what's your priority? Is this thing that you're devoting your time to something that you can be flexible with, or is it something that you have to set boundaries for? That's like if you know that you are meeting with someone and they are known for being late, they are known for taking up unnecessary time, then how you plan that meeting, you have to know, well, I'm either going to have to allot time on the back end or the front end, and then you have to stick to whatever it is. That's like sometimes if you know you have a lot going on and you're carving time out for someone, you've got to say, okay, well, I'm going to give this person an hour of my time. That's what I have to give them. And you've got to stick to it. I know that sometimes that might be a difficult thing because depending upon what it is, you might not, you might want to be flexible.
right,
However,
right,
However, you've got to keep in mind that they might not be aware of that. So they just feel like, okay, it's all good. I can just use their time because they're free.
right, right. Or they think you're free.
Right.
So
So you have to respect your time, and you have to put a value on your time. What is it worth to you? And if you're willing to just give your time freely, then hey, that's on you. Don't say that you don't have time to do things. But if you put um a value on what your time is worth, then I promise you that how you spend it will be different.
right. I mean, and I'm with you on that. I think a lot of people don't communicate their expectation when it comes to those same time management things. So if you have a meeting with someone, you can on the front end let them know, hey, we got an hour, and you have 15 minutes to be here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll wait 15 minutes into my hour, and if you're not here in that 15 minutes, then I'm out. I mean, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think because you're not being there, and then especially not calling and letting someone know, then you're actually wasting my time
Well,
and not being mindful.
I really think when people don't communicate to you that they're running behind or they're consistently running behind every time you're meeting with them, then that says that they don't value your time. And if you don't value my time, then I won't spend my time with you. And
Right, right. I agree.
and I really think that that is very important. 15 minutes in, okay, if I've allotted an hour for you and we're 15 minutes in and you're not here yet and you decide that you are going to get there and you're 20 minutes late, well, guess what? You only have 40 minutes of my time, whereas before you did have 60. And while
Right.
some people may feel like, oh, well, you don't have to be like that. You don't have, sure I do. Because the end of every day, we all have 24 hours. And I'm accountable to how I spend my 24 hours, just like you're accountable to how you spend yours. And and if my goal is success, then I have to do what it takes for me to reach my success. And my success might not look the same as yours.
Right. Not to mention, I have my checklist. I have my calendar. I know what's
Right.
next.
That's
I,
exactly right.
I know exactly what's coming up next on my calendar. So I have to make sure that I'm gonna be mindful of the next person's time.
But you know what I find ironic though is that sometimes when it comes to people other than yourself, when they're doing something that has to do with them, they're very mindful of their time. It's
Yeah,
just when they're using someone else's time that they are not mindful.
right. They
And
care.
that's unfortunate because there's not a balance.
Right. They care less about other people's time, but everybody has to move when it's their time.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, yep,
So
And
that's why
yep, yep.
I
That's why I say that it's important that you place a value on your time and then you set boundaries. One thing that I've always said is that boundaries are very important. If you do not set boundaries for yourself, if you don't set boundaries for your family, whatever the case may be, your business, if you don't set boundaries, then you can go and be led anywhere because you have no boundaries.
right.
That's a
I
good place to end it right there. Yeah,
well,
you're right.
I think that's right, but I also feel like that, a lot of people have don't have anything to do,
Hmm.
right? They have no dreams, aspirations, or goals. They go
Hmm.
to their job and they go home.
Hmm.
So if they work for 8 hours, then they have the rest of their 24 hours, right? The rest of it
Hmm.
to waste.
Right. That's true. Hmm.
And my grandma used to always say, idle hands are the work of the devil.
Hmm.
So what is that? What is idle hands? What is idle time? Trey, what's idle time?
Okay, so idle time is time. This is from Investotopia.
Hmm.
That's where the definition comes from. Idle time is the time associated with waiting or when a piece of machinery is not being used, but it could be. But mostly, idle time is time associated with waiting. Is that correct?
Okay, so what does that mean to you?
It basically means what the definition says to me.
No,
Like,
no. What does it mean to you? Put it in a situation. Give me something.
Put it
Give
in
me
Trey terms. Put it in Trey
yeah,
uh,
words.
three terms.
um, let's see. When I'm playing Xbox and I have to wait for the servers to stop acting up, I would count that as idle time for myself.
Oh no. Let me give
Oh,
you let
that's
me give you
wrong.
an example.
Okay.
I didn't say that's wrong. I mean, because that is idle time. You're sitting idle waiting. So that
It's
is
kind of
that
like
that
a
is
car when it's idle, I guess.
exactly, because if it's just idling, then it's just sitting there, right? It's just waiting. Okay. Okay. Well, how do you correlate the fact that a lot of the older people say that idle hands are the work of the devil? Because during that idle time, right, that time that you're waiting, you're sitting there. Usually, that's the time that you come up with things that are not right to do.
Hmm.
So
Oh,
if
well, I don't count that.
yeah, you don't count it, but it's still time that's being wasted. And but this time it's a little bit different than just wasted time. This is idle time, because during idle time you're sitting there and let's say you're waiting on those same game servers to boot up and stuff like that. But in the meantime, you're like, let me go over here and mess with my sister. Let me go fly my drone through the living room.
That's a good one.
You know what I'm saying? Let me go ride this hoverboard through my apartment and mess with the people that's below me. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, let me go flip off the couch.
Flip off the camera.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
understand what you're saying as an
yeah.
example.
Let me go outside and make some pranks on people. You know, and that I think that's a lot of times how a lot of people will sit there and have idle time. That's what idle time is when people sit there and come up with things to do that actually they shouldn't be putting their hands to.
Right.
I don't think that's the correct plow, if you will. That's not productive
Right.
time. So idle time is time that's other than productive, because even if you're just laying in the bed going to sleep, that's productive time
Hmm.
because it's needed. It's something that you should be doing.
Hmm.
You know,
And then going back to Trey's point about waiting on the server, Okay, so you're waiting on the server because obviously you have work to do or you're trying to accomplish a goal. So your time is not necessarily idle, but while you are waiting, what are you doing? And I think that that's important if we look at it from a spiritual perspective, because some of us have things that we are waiting on God to do in our lives. So what are we doing while we're waiting? While
Right,
we're waiting, are we sitting back doing nothing? The
right,
word says that faith without works is dead. So that means that let's say that you're waiting for a job, or you're praying about a promotion on your job. Okay, so what, do you just do nothing while you wait on this promotion, or do you market yourself, or do you do extra work, or ask about projects, or get to know what's going on, where can you move, where can you grow, what can you do? It's about, while you're waiting, what are you doing that's producing results that can help you achieve your goals? And I think that that's very, very, very important. And I'm talking to myself a lot here, because it's just a reminder that you have time. You have the time. That's what frustrates me sometimes when people be like, I ain't got time. It's not enough hours in a day. Well, sure it is. It's enough. It's just, how are you managing it? Have you done like Kaya said and made a checklist?
Yeah,
You know,
those are good.
right.
right. Do you utilize a calendar?
Right. And that's something that Rich Bees is really big on, using that calendar system. And that's because there's so many of us on this team and we have so many different things going on. And in order for us to be on the same page, we've got to use something other than word of mouth, because we forget.
Yep, yep. Because I mean, if you're busy and you're on the go, then you gotta find a calendar. You gotta find a calendar. You gotta find a to-do list. You gotta. But these are different applications that you can get on your smartphone. Because if you're listening to this, more than likely you also have a smartphone. More
Hmm.
than likely. I mean, I'm pretty sure that most people aren't going to be listening to this with a flip phone. So,
Mr.
um,
Bragg.
wow. So here we go. So we're gonna go ahead and bring this thing to a close. We have about 3 minutes left in the show, but I do want to go ahead and say one good thing about Dynamic Works, our sponsor. I want to say that Dynamic Works basically is your way to get your vision out to the public. That's what we do at Dynamic Works. We can take your vision from an idea to a finished product that you and the people who follow you can be excited about. So go to the website now, www.dynamicworks.com. That's DYNAMIKWORKS.com. The quality you deserve, period. So now we're going to finish this off with one scripture that I found about time. This is coming from Ecclesiastes 3 1 through 8. I'm going to read this here from the English Standard Version. And we hope you join us again next week for another episode of another one where I can't tell you what we're going to talk about. You know why? Because next week's a secret.
Huh?
For everything, there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to tear, and a time to sow. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time for war, and a time for peace. We thank you again for listening to this episode of Dynamic Works version of another one. We will see you next week.
Holla!
Huh?
Bye.
What's